जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी, जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी, यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन, यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन, यमुन तीरावनचारि, यमुन तीरावनचारि, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, हरे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, जय राधा गिरिधारी राधे, जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव जय सुभद्रा, जय गौरनिताई जय गौरनिताई, प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद, जय जय गुरुदेव गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव। जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतश्री ऐसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, नामचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा गिरिधर भगवान की जय, श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा मैया की जय, श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंद हरि हरि बोल। All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Srila Gurudev. Hare Krishna. Welcome all. We will continue to read from Srila Prabhupada Leelamrita. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Share my screen. Okay, hopefully you're seeing my screen. If not, just let me know. So we're reading from chapter 40, Around the World, but absorbed in Bombay. So the Gurukul teachers were particularly concerned and puzzled about how to discipline children without being punitive. And Prabhupada unhesitatingly solved all their puzzles. He said the students should both fear and love their teachers. The teacher, by stern countenance, may threaten an unruly child and make him submit, but the teacher should not hit the child. The next day, Srila Prabhupada went into a classroom and sat on a cushion before the class. Holding a blackboard pointer in hand, in each hand. He joked that one stick could be used for hitting the students' heads and the other for hitting their hands. The children and teachers became delighted to see Sri Prabhupada's playful mood. And when he asked if anyone wanted to get hit, both teachers and students moved forward, holding their hands out for a merciful slap from Srila Prabhupada. To demonstrate how to teach, Prabhupada called for a volunteer. Dwarkadhisha came forward. Prabhupada, placing his venerable hand over the boys, guided him repeatedly in forming the first letter of the Sanskrit alphabet. News of Bombay followed Prabhupada to Dallas. A devotee who had recently come to the west from Bombay informed Prabhupada of Giriraj's recent talk of resigning as president of the center. Depressed by his ineffectiveness in dealing with Mr. N, the lawyers and the government, and harassed by bickering and uncooperative devotees, he was considering himself unworthy to keep the charge. Now, Giriraj's anxiety became Prabhupada's as again he concerned himself with all the affairs of his Jew project. There seemed to be no one he could discuss this with, since the devotees in America knew almost nothing of matters in Bombay. The night was too hot for sleeping, and Prabhupada could not concentrate on translating Srimad Bhagavatam. So he stayed up late, talking with his secretary about Bombay. Surmising the mind and mood of Mr. N and expressing his concern for his Hare Krishna land and his wonder at the devotees' hesitation and disheartenment, he turned the argument this way and that, considering it in different lights, until in the early morning he finally put it aside. Afterward, he at best price possible. N promised to pay it. If he won't, we can pay, suggest 15,000. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Prabhupada Lilamrita ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayet Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam Yad Vaishnavanam Priyam Yasmin Parahamsyam Ekam Amalam Jnanam Param Giyate Tatra Jnana Viraga Bhakti Sahitam Naishkarmyamaviskritam Tat Shrinvan Supathan Vicharana Paro Bhaktya Vimuchye Nara Bhaktya Vimuchye Nara Bhaktya Vimuchye Nara. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. We'll continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 22, from text 9 to the end of this chapter. It's a short chapter, just 17 verses. Here's screen again. So these are all prose verses. So there are many verses. So what I will do, if it is okay, is I'll recite the first verse and somebody can do the translations, and then I'll request others also can do the next verses because it's quite long, and just to read and read the translation and the verses is going to take us quite some time. So that might not have much time for discussion. Okay, so we'll start off with text 9. Yeah. So this is chapter titled Orbits of the Planets. अथा चापुर्यमानाभिश्च कलभिरमरणाम् क्षीयमानाभिश्च कलभिः पितॄणाम् अहोरात्राणि पूर्वपक्षा परा पक्षाभ्यं वितन्वानः सर्वजीवनिवः प्राणो जीवश्चैकम् एकं नक्षत्रं त्रिंशता मुहूर्तैर्भुङ्क्ते. Atha thus cha also apuryamanabihi gradually increasing cha and kalabhihi by the parts of the moon amaranam of the demigods kshiyamanabihi by gradually decreasing cha and kalabhihi by parts of the moon pitranam of those on the planet known as Pitralok aharatrani the days and nights Purva Paksha Apara Pakshabhyam by the period of waxing and waning, Vitanvanaha distributing, Sarva Jiva Nivaha of the total living entities, Pranaha the life, Jivaha the chief living being, Cha also, Ekam Ekam one after another. Nakshatram a constellation of stars, Trim Shata by 30, Muhurtai, Muhurtas, Bhukte passes through. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. When the moon is waxing, the illuminating portions of it increase daily, thus creating day for the demigods and night for the Pitas. When the moon is waning, however, it causes night for the demigods and day for the Pitas. In this way, the moon passes through each constellation of stars in 30 muhurtas, an entire day. The moon is a source of nectarian coolness that influences the growth of food grains, and therefore, the moon god is considered the life of all living entities. He is consequently called Jiva, the chief living being within the universe. Okay, would somebody like to recite this verse? 10? And you can do the synonyms as well.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, can I please?
Yes, please, Mataji.
Ya esha shodasha kalaha purusho bhagavan manomayo annamayo amritamayo deva pitra manushya bhuta pashu pakshi sarishripa virudham pranapyayana shilatvat sarvamaya iti varnayanti. Synonyms. Yaha, that, eshaha, this, shodasha kalaha, having all 16 parts, the full moon, purushaha, the person, Bhagavan, having great power received from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Manaha Mayaha, the predominating deity of the mind, Annamayaha, the source of potency for food grains, Amrita Mayaha, the source of the substance of life, Deva of all the demigods, Pitra of all the inhabitants of Pitraloka, Manushya, all human beings, Bhuta, all living entities, Pashu of the animals, Pakshi of the birds, Sarishripa of the reptiles, Virudham of all kinds of herbs and plants, Prana, life air, Api, certainly, Ayana Shilatvat, due to refreshing, Sarva Mayaha, all pervading, Iti, thus, Varnayanti, the learned scholars describe.
You can do the translation also, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Because the moon is full of all potentialities, it represents the influence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The moon is a predominating deity of everyone's mind, and therefore the moon god is called Manomaya. He is also called Annamaya because he gives potency to all herbs and plants, and he is called Amritamaya because he is a source of life for all living entities. The moon pleases the demigods, pitas, human beings, animals, birds, reptiles, trees, plants, and all other living entities. Everyone is satisfied with the presence of the moon. Therefore, the moon is also called Sarvamaya, all-pervading. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Okay, somebody else can do 11.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I am reading here.
Yes, Prabhu.
Tat upurishtat dilaksho yojanato nakshatrani merum dakshinenoiva kalayana ishyaro yojitani saha vijitashta vinshati.
Okay.
Tata, from that synonyms and translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Tataha, from that region of the moon, upurishtat, above, dilaksha yojanat, 200,000 yojanas, nakshatrani, many stars, merum, Sumeru mountain, Dakshineno Evo to the right side, Kalo Ayone in the wheel of time, Ishvara Yojitani attached by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Soho with Abhijita, the star known as Abhijit, Ashto Vingshati, 28. Translation. There are many stars located 200,000 yojanas, 1600,000 miles above the moon. But the supreme will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are fixed to the wheel of time, and thus they rotate with Mount Sumeru on their right, their motion being different from that of the sun. There are 28 important stars headed by Abhijit.
And you can read
And
the slide also too in the purport. Yeah.
Purport also. Purport. The stars referred to herein are 1600,000 miles above the sun, and thus they are 4 million miles above the earth. Hare Krishna. Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, somebody else want to do 12?
হরে কৃষ্ণ প্রভুজি, ধন্যবাদ প্রণাম। তত উপরিষ্টাৎ উষনা দ্বিলক্ষযোজনত উপলভ্যতে পুরতঃ পশ্চাৎ সহৈব বার্কস্য শৈঘ্রমান্দ সাম্যভির্গতিভির অর্কবচ্চরতি লোকানাং নিত্যদানুকূল এব প্রায়েণ বর্ষয়ংশ্চারেণানুমীয়তে স বৃষ্টিবৃষ্টম্ভ গ্রহোপশমনঃ।
Very nice. Yes,
Tato,
please continue.
from the bunch of stars, Uparistat above, Ushana, Venus, Dvilaksha Yojana, 200,000 yojanas, and 1600,000 miles. Upalabhyate is experienced. Purata in front, Paschat behind, Soho along with, Eva indeed, Ba and Orkosha of the sun, Shoigra speedy, Mandya slow. Shamya bhi equal, Goti bhi the movements, Arkavat exactly like the sun, Charati rotates, Lokanam of all the planets within the universe, Nityada constantly, Onukulaha offering favorable conditions, Eva indeed, Prayana almost always, Varsayan causing rainfall, Charena by infusing the clouds, Onumiyate is perceived, saw he Venus, Brishti Bishtamba obstacles to rainfall, Groho Uposhamanaho, nullifying planets.
You can do the translation also.
Translation. Some 1600,000 miles above this group of stars is the planet Venus, which moves at almost exactly the same pace as the sun according to swift, slow, and moderate movements. Sometimes Venus moves behind the sun, sometimes in front of the sun, and sometimes along with it. Venus nullifies the influence of planets that are obstacles to rainfall. Consequently, its presence causes rainfall, and it is therefore considered very favorable for all living beings within the universe. This has been accepted by learned scholar. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Okay, somebody else wants to do 13? Anybody? Yeah, did I hear somebody?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji,
Yes,
Dandavat
yeah.
Pranam. उष्णसा बुद्धो व्याख्यातस् तत उपरिष्टात् द्विलक्ष योजनतो बुद्धा सोमसूत उपलभ्यमानः प्रायेण शुभ कृते यदार्थकात् व्यातिरिच्येत तदातिवा ताभर प्रायानावृष्टयादिभयम् आश्मस्ते. Shall I continue, Prabhu?
Yes, yes, please. Synonyms and translation.
Ushnasa with Venus, Buddha, Mercury, Vyakyatha, explain, Tatha, from that Venus, Uprishtat, above, Dvilaksha Yojanata, 1,600,000 miles. Buddha, Mercury, Som, Sutaha, the son of moon. Upalabhyamanaha is situated. Prayena, almost always. Shubhkrita, very auspicious to the inhabitants of the universe. Yatha, when Arkat from the sun, Vyatiricyet, is separated, Tada, at that time, Ativat, of cyclones and other bad effects, Abhra, clouds, Pray, almost always, Anavrishti Adi, such as scarcity of rain, Bhayam, fearful conditions, Asmaste, expands. Translation interpreted by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Mercury is described to be similar to Venus in that it moves sometimes behind the sun, sometimes in front of the sun, and sometimes along with it. It is 1,600,000 miles above Venus or 7,200,000 miles above Earth. Mercury, which is the son of the moon, is almost always very auspicious for the inhabitants of the universe. But when it does not move along with the sun, it forbids cyclones, dust, irregular rainfall, and waterless clouds. In this way, it creates fearful conditions due to inadequate or excessive rainfall. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I am doing this one.
So I need all of you to read because we are covering 11 verses today.
Oh, yeah, I can read this one.
Yes, thank you.
अतः उधम अंगारक अपि योजनलक्षदितये उपलभ्यमान त्रिभिः पक्षैः एकश राशिं द्वादश अनुभुङ्क्ते यदि न वक्रेण अभिवर्तते प्रायेण अशुभग्रह अघ संशः. Synonyms: Atha, from this, Urdhavan, above, Anga, Rakaha, Mars, Api, also, Yojana, Laksha, Abhidaye, at a distance of 1,600,000 miles, Upalabhaya Manaha is situated, Trivihi, with each 3 and 3, Akshay, for nights, Eko Ekasha, one after another, Rashin, the signs, Dadasha, 12, Unubhungte, passes through, Yadi, if, Na, not, Bakrino, with a curve, Ubhi Vartate, approaches, Prayeno, almost always, Ashubha Graha, an unfavorable inauspicious planet, Agha Samsaha, creating trouble. Translation: situated 1,600,000 miles above Mercury, or 8,800,000 miles above Earth, is the planet Mars. If this planet does not travel in a crooked way, it crosses through each sign of the zodiac in 3 fortnights, and in this way travels through all 12, one after another. It almost always creates unfavorable conditions in respect to rainfall and other influences.
Mataji, next is 15. Somebody else?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, I am reading it.
Yeah, please.
तत् उपरिष्ट द्विलक्ष योजनान्तर्गता भगवान् बृहस्पतिर् एकैकस्मिन् राशौ परिवत्सरं चरोति यदि न चक्रः सात् प्रायेणानुकूलो ब्राह्मणकुलस्य. Synonyms: ततः, that Mars, उपरिष्टात्, above, द्विलक्ष योजना अंतर्गत, situated at a distance of 1,600,000 miles, Bhagavan, the most powerful planet, Brihaspati, Jupiter, ekosmin, in one after another, Rasho, sign, Poribishtamano, Poribishtaram, for the year Poribishtara, Poribotshara, Charoti, moves, Yadi, if no, not, Bakra, carved, Seth, becomes, Prayena, almost always, Anukulaha, very favorable, Brahmana Kulasya, to the Brahmanas of the universe. Translation: situated 1,600,000 miles above Mars, or 10,400,000 miles above Earth, is the planet Jupiter, which travels through one sign of the zodiac within the period of Parivatshara. If its movement is not curved, the planet Jupiter is very favorable to the Brahmanas of the universe. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavad Pranam.
You. Okay. 4 more to go.
Shall I read another? Shall I read that, Prabhu?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Anybody?
This one. Tata uparishtaad yojana lakshadvayat praतीयमानः शनैश्चर एकैकस्मिन् राशौ त्रिंशन् मासान् विलम्बमानः सर्वान् एवानुपर्येति तावद्भिर् अनुवत्सरैः प्रायेण हि सर्वेषाम् अशान्तिकरः. Tatah, that Jupiter, Uparistat, above, Yojana Lakshadvayat, by a distance of 1.6 million miles. Pratiyamanaha is situated, Shaneshcharaha, the planet Saturn, Eka Ekasmin, in one after another, Rashav, zodiac signs, Trimshat, Masan, for a period of 30 months in each. Vilambamanaha, lingering, Sarvan, all 12 signs of the zodiac. Eva, certainly, Anuparyeti, passes through, Tavadbhi, by so many, Anuvatsarehi, Anuvatsaras, Prayena, almost always, he, indeed, Sarvesham, to all the inhabitants, Ashanti Karaha, very troublesome. Translation. Situated 1.6 million miles above Jupiter or 12 million miles above the Earth is the planet Saturn, which passes through one sign of the zodiac in 30 months and covers the entire zodiac circle in 30 Anuvatsaras. This planet is always very inauspicious for the universal situation. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Krishna. Okay, 17. Anybody else would like to read?
Yes,
Hare
I
Krishna
can read.
Prabhuji.
Yes.
Okay, Mataji, go ahead.
Yeah, you can do the next
Okay.
one. One of you.
Thank you. ततः उत्तरस्माद् ऋषयो एकादश लक्ष योजनान्तर उपलभ्यते य एव लोकानां सम अनुभावयन्तो भगवतो विष्णोर्यत् परमं पदं प्रदक्षिणं प्रक्रमन्ति. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, and continue, Mataji. Synonyms and translation.
Tata, the planet Saturn, Uttarasmat above, Rishaya, great saintly sages, Ekadasha Laksha Yojana Antare, at a distance of 1,100,000 yojanas, Upalabhyanti, are situated, yea, all of them, Evo, indeed, Lokanam, for all inhabitants of the universe, some the good fortune, Anubhavayantaha, always thinking of Bhagavata, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, Lord Vishnu, Yat, which, Paramam Padam, the Supreme Abode, Pradakshinam, placing on the right, Purikramanti, circumambulate.
Okay.
Translation.
I'll get Mataji to do the translation and purport. Also, it's Chittanandini.
Okay, Prabhu, thank you. Translation.
That's the last one.
Situated 8,800,000 miles above Saturn, 20,800,000 miles above Earth are the 7 saintly sages who are always thinking of the well-being of the inhabitants of the universe. They circumambulate the supreme abode of Lord Vishnu, known as Dhruvalaka, the pole star. Srimad purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Madhavacharya quotes the following verse from Brahmanda Puran. Jnanandatmano Vishnu Shishu Mara Vapushya Atha Urdhava Lokeshu Sha Vyapta Aditya Dyas Tad Asrita. Lord Vishnu, who is the source of knowledge and transcendental bliss, has assumed the form of Shishumara in the 7th heaven, which is situated in the topmost level of the universe. All the other planets, beginning with the sun, exist under the shelter of the Shishumara planetary system. Thus, in the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 5th canto, 22nd chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam entitled The Orbits of the Planets. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you very much. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay. So as you can see, this is such a simple section of this chapter. 9 to 17. There was not much purport, so there is nothing much to explain. Prabhupada has just given us the translations of these verses, and they give us the different planets, how far they are, and that's it. So nothing much to explain today. So we can end. So there are two things I wanted to highlight, and for those of you who love numbers and a lot of information, you will feast on this section because there's lots of numbers, there's lots of information, which may or may not tally with what the modern astronomers are currently telling us with their punitive research. So for them, it's a feast, and for people who are not too much numbers conscious, for them it'll be like all the information going from above. So what I've done is at the end, I'll just maybe just set the context of why we need to do this and a bit of an understanding on how to at least remember some aspects of how these planets are situated, and not necessarily how far they are, but there is a simple way to keep that in mind. If you're interested, I will share that. And more importantly, why is this section taking us through all of these different details? What is the ultimate purpose? So we look at those aspects. So first is in 9, this whole chapter, of course, is entitled Orbits of the Planets. And I'll just step back a little bit to set the context for these chapters, some of which we have completed, the current chapter and the coming chapters in the next few. If we have a context, what is this whole theme about, there'll be a lot of interest and we'll be able to retain some things. Otherwise, it'll just be isolated information. It's very difficult to remember. It doesn't really make it very relevant for our spiritual journey, so as to say, although we know everything in Bhagavatam is important, but our mind will take it as, I don't really need to know this. So, we want to avoid doing that. We don't want to get into the details, but it's just good to have a complete overview. So with that intent, I just thought I'll just recap quickly, not the details, but the overview. So we started, if you see, the description of Jambudvip in chapter 19, which we've already covered and discussed. After doing Jambudvip, so it was, the Varshas, the Dvipas, we covered all of those things. Then finally we came to Jambudvip. Then in chapter 20 in this canto, we looked at the structure of the universe, which was basically about, I think, 4 billion miles, the whole area of this universe. Then in chapter 21, we spoke about, or we discussed the movements of the sun. So in this universe, there are different planets, and amongst the planets, the king of the planet is the sun. And we also saw how the Lord, he actually takes the form, or the sun is basically one of his expansion. He comes as the sun. He's also referred to as Surya Narayan. And through his potency, the sun is able to give light and heat throughout the entire universe. So sun is very, very, very important. And modern science also confirms that without the sun, we can't exist. And then in this chapter 22, specifically, there is a big mention about another planet, which we are all aware of, but we don't know that this planet is also equally as important as the sun, if not more important. And that is the moon planet. So that's been discussed. And along with the moon, the section that we are currently covering today, there are other planets. And all of them we have learned in geography or in astronomy, astronomy, that these are the planets, these are the movements, and this is how they're located. But now we will be reading it or understanding it from a Bhagavatam perspective. And one fine day when the TOVP opens in Mayapur, we will actually get a glimpse of how these planets are actually situated, how they are moving, and what is their different circumstances, circumference, their relative size. Everything will be very nicely represented over there visually. So after describing all this universe, the planets, the sun, the moon, then the next chapter will conclude by saying that it will take it all to the topmost planet, which is the only planet in this material world that will continue to exist even after annihilation, and that is the Dhruva Loka. So we'll talk about that, and it will also talk about the entire, you could say, the constellation of the whole, all the planets taken together is there in a certain formation, and that certain formation is in the shape of a dolphin, and that's why that formation is called Shishumar. So the next chapter is all about that. I'll not go into detail today, but it's just to give you a context that that's coming. So that will give us a summation of how the entire planetary system is located and how it is nice to just keep an overview by remembering these things. And then 24, 25, 26, there are 26 chapters in Canto 5. So far we have done Earth and the upper planetary systems. I mean, not technically upper, but pretty much around the Earth and the current planets that we know, which is around the Bhumandal. After that, from text 24, we'll go on to the lower planetary systems. Right? So 24 will specifically deal with the subterranean planets, which is below Earth. And then we will do chapter 25, which is the glories of Anantadev. Why Anantadev? Because on the hoods of Anantadev, this whole material universe is resting. So he's the resting place of all that we are studying now. So it is good to understand his glories, his greatness. And then the last chapter is the description of the hellish planets. So is hellish planet the same as the lower planetary system, or they are different? What do you think? I'm asking. Anybody? So there are lower planetary systems, Atal, Vital, Sutal, Talatal, Mahatal, Patal. And then there are, so that is the description in chapter 24. But chapter 26 talks about hellish planets, Andata, Mishra, and all those kind of things. So are they the same or are they different? Some people have this confusion.
No, Prabhuji, they are different.
They're different. Yes, they're different. So these hellish planets are below the subterranean planets. So when we talk about the 14 planetary systems, it is about upper, middle, and lower. Lower than the lower is because 14 planetary systems is just an overview. It does not cover every single detail or every single planet. Just like Bhumandal has got all these planetary systems right up to Dhruvalok, but they are part of the Bhumandal. They are not moving into the upper planetary system. So similarly, below the lower planetary system, that is below Patal, is the hellish planets. Okay, and of course, when we do those chapters, we'll understand more in detail on what is the difference, who are the living entities, is there suffering or enjoyment there. So it is just good to get an overview. So from 20 to 26, it's all about the planetary systems. So coming back to today's section where it is being described, the moon is being described. So we know about the waxing and waning of the moon, right? And it is a lot of information. But what is important is the moon in text 9 and 10 has been given 5 names. Yeah, if anybody has got Bhagavatam open with you, and if you are able to say, you can share. So in text 9, the moon has been given one name. Another name for the moon. Anybody?
Jiva.
Jiva. Thank you. Thank you, Mataji. And in text 10, there are 4 names of the moon.
Annamaya and Amritamaya
Yes.
and Sarvamaya also at the end.
Yes.
The first one I don't remember.
Oh, great, Mataji. Without seeing you, you're very nice. The 4th one is Manomaya. So Manomaya, right? Then you've got some. Why Manomaya? Because it's the predominating deity of the mind. Manomaya. So that's a okay. First one is Jiva. Second is Manomaya. Third, it is given here is Annamaya. Why Annamaya? Because the moon is a source of nourishment for all the vegetables, fruits, vegetables, anything that is grown out of the earth can only be nourished by the moon. So the sun is also required, as science tells us, but what science doesn't tell us is the moon is equally important. So sun is important, moon is also important. In fact, moon is more important because the juice that is generated in the fruits and vegetables, which actually gives us that nourishment, it helps us keep the body healthy, is coming from the moon specifically. So it is also called Annamaya, right? Third one is mentioned here. It is called Amritamaya. Why Amritamaya? Because the moon is also the source of life of all the living entities. Without the moon, we cannot survive. Just like without the sun, we cannot survive. No wonder in Bhagavatam, in the 6th canto, we will see that the sun and the moon are referred to as the 2 eyes of Krishna. So he's seeing, maintaining, and keeping a watchful eye, observing everything through these 2 planets. So that's the fourth one. And the last one is Sarvamaya. Why? Because everyone feels very satisfied, very cool, very nice seeing the moon. Like the sun, you can see the sun maybe early morning or like dawn or dusk, but throughout the day you can't see. It's so glaring, so powerful. But the moon you can see anytime, and it gives us some kind of a satisfaction, a very cooling thing. And why is that? As Prabhu was discussing yesterday, we've got this nice bhajan. Nitai pada kamala koti chandra sushitala se jaya jagato judai. So jagato judai, the whole world becomes peaceful and happy just by of course, the lotus feet of Nityananda, which is equated to Koti Chandra Sushitala. Koti, 1 crore, 10 million moons together. If they were to be brought together, the amount of coolness they would generate, one will get the same feel when they catch hold of the feet of Lord Nityananda. So that is a very nice example and an aspect of the importance of moon in our day-to-day lives. So that was 9 and 10. In 11, now there are, so the moon part is finished. Above the moon, there are these stars. It is said that there are 28 different stars, at one of which the primary star of which is called Avijit. So they are situated 1,600,000 miles away from the moon. That is 11. So 12, 13, 14, like that, it now goes on to the different planets. And interestingly, if you see, each one is the same distance away from each other. So, of course, there are yojanas and miles. I've just kept the miles aspect in mind. So it is the same thing, same distance, 1,600,000 miles. So from the moon to stars. Then from the stars to Venus is exactly the same distance. Okay. And it is said that Venus moves the same pace as the sun. Okay. Now, each planet is moving, has a certain distance from each other. It has its own rotation and revolution, and it has an influence on the inhabitants of Bhumandal because it's part of the Bhumandal atmosphere. So it has an influence of them. So that's why we see the nakshatra and the planets, they have an impact on the human life. Everything in our environment affects us. So similarly, these planetary movements also affect us. And that's what is the whole subject matter of Jyotish. So first is moon, then we talked about the 28 stars, then it's being mentioned that about Venus. Now, Venus is actually a good planet in the sense that it nullifies the influence of planets that are obstacles to rainfall. And it is very, very favorable for all living entities. So in a person's chart, when this, of course, it varies on different aspects as well. But it is apparently mentioned that in general, Venus, if somebody in somebody's life, if Venus is more prominent, that's considered usually a good sign. It's favorable. So that is Venus. It is also called Ushana, Dvilaksha Yojana. Then in 13, another planet is mentioned, which is Buddha. Buddha is Mercury. So Mercury is also the same distance from Venus. So we had moon, then we had 28 stars, then we had Venus. Now we have got Mercury, same distance. Okay, 1,600,000. Now Mercury is the son of moon, the moon planet. And it is also very auspicious for the inhabitants of the universe. Right? And then, of course, there are certain conditions given that when it doesn't move with the sun, it can create some challenges, some problems. But usually it's considered auspicious. Then another planet above that, same distance, is Angarako. And that is Mars. So Mars is the same distance away, and Mars creates unfavorable conditions. So Venus, Mercury is favorable, Mars is unfavorable, especially with respect to rainfall and other influences. In 15, then above Mars is the same distance is Jupiter. Right? And Jupiter is very favorable to the Brahmanas. So Brahmana should be very, very thankful to Jupiter planet, okay? Brahmanical culture. Then in 16, another planet is introduced. And for the people who are not aware or people who are just who are too much into astrology, they don't like this planet. Of course, nobody likes anything untoward, challenging, or miserable. But this is a planet that is above the same distance from Jupiter, like the other planets. So same 1,600,000 miles. And this is considered very, very inauspicious for the universal situation, right? So a person whose Shani, when the person comes under the influence of Shani, because in everybody's life, the planetary systems, like it's rotating, it goes on. So every planetary system, it comes and becomes the main dasha of that person at that particular time. So when the Saturn comes in, then somehow or the other, inauspicious things happen more than auspicious. Things tend to go wrong more than work out. So that becomes a problem. So that's why people go to the astrologers and they give them so many rings and this and that and puja and this to do, right? But for devotees, there is an easy way out. Shani, the Saturn or the deity of Saturn, is very, very merciful and is subservient to a form of the Lord. Anybody knows? He prays. The Shani.
Narasimhadev.
Yes, thank you. In fact, Poshak Mata Prabhu had shared this prayer, Shanaishcharya prayers, which he regularly recites, where Lord Shani is actually praying to Nrsimhadev. So if we are praying to Nrsimhadev, who is the Ishtadev of Shani, guess what? It's not that the influence will completely go away, but it will be a lot muted and will be protected under the shelter of Nrsimhadev. So that's why we don't wait for Shani to come into our life to pray to Nrsimhadev. What do we do as devotees? We pray to Nrsimhadev every single day. In fact, sometimes twice a day. As soon as we finish our Aarti, we do Nrsimha Pranam. In evening Aarti, we do Nrsimha Pranam. So a devotee's life is so much full of the Supreme Lord that these influences, we are not really worried. Of course, they do have some influence, but we are not worried about it. Which brings us to the last verse in this chapter, and the last verse for today as well, is above this Shani, and this is 8,800,000 miles above Shani, are the Saptarishis, the 7 saintly sages, who are always thinking about the well-being of this universe. And they circumambulate the supreme abode of Vishnu, known as Dhruvalok, pole star. So they are moving around the pole star. So just as a quick recap and brief, as I said, this is more of information in this section. I'll just share with you a chart which may make things a lot more easier to remember visually. I'm a visual person, so I just like sharing. Okay, just give me a minute. Okay, so this is, well, you can see my screen. So I had shared with you all this one before. So this all everybody knows. I just want to focus on these two. So this is, again, some of you may be having it. So this is the general universe configuration. So usually, so this is the upper planetary systems, Dhruvalok, and then the lower planetary systems here sitting on the Garbhodaka ocean. So they are not mentioned here. So this Dhruvalok aspect, which is the middle part, is this. If you can see my cursor. Right. So this is what we were discussing in this particular chapter. We talked about the sun, moon, 28 stars, Shukra, Budh, Angaraka, Brihaspati, Shani, Saptarshi, Dhruvalok. Dhruvalok we didn't discuss, but it's just mentioned. This will be more in the next chapter. Okay. And then, of course, in the sun, like from the sun to the bottom, we'll have the lower planetary systems, which will be the next chapter. So this one, I just thought I'll just do a quick recap. Hopefully you can see this thing. It may be a bit small if you're seeing on your mobile phone. But so this is the sun that we talked about. Okay, it's also referred to as Surya Narayan. And one whole movement of the sun, around the circumference, is called a Samvatsara. And half of it is called an Ayana, which we were discussing earlier in this chapter. And this chariot wheel of Sun Lord is broken up into 12 zodiac signs. And two of these sections, they're called the 12 seasons, you could say, 12 seasons, 12 zodiac signs, and 12 divisions, subdivisions. Then above the sun, at a distance of 1,600,000 miles, is the moon. And moon is actually moving much faster than the sun. So 1 month, so the rotation or the movement of the moon, what it could do in a month takes the sun 1 year. This is what is given. And then we talked about these 5 names given to the moon based on the qualities the moon has got, and the way it influences the inhabitants of this universe, of this planet. Then we've got the 28 stars. We've got the Venus, which is favorable. We've got Mercury, that is auspicious. We've got Mars, that is unfavorable. Then we've got Jupiter, that is favorable to Brahmanas. Then we've got Saturn, which is inauspicious. Then from here, we've got a jump of 8,800,000. Then we've got the Saptarishis. They're always thinking about the well-being of the universe. And then 10.4, so 10,400,000 miles away, which is not in this chapter, but it will come in the next chapter, is Dhruvalok. And that is a center. Okay. Above that is the upper planetary systems. So the next chapter will talk about the Shishumara planetary systems, which basically means that these whole planetary configurations, they are in the form of a dolphin, Shishumara, which is also considered an external form of Lord Vishnu. And below the sun is the planet called Rahu. That will come under then subsequently when we do the lower planetary systems will come that. So why do we need to do this? This is this nice verse in Bhagavad Gita where Krishna, before he shows the universal form, he tells Arjun that yad yad vibhuti mat sattvam Srimad Urjita Mevava Tattat Eva Gachatvam Mama Tejo Amsha Sambhavan. Means that know that all opulent, beautiful, and glorious creations are but a small spark of my splendor. It's a spark. So this is just to give the greatness or they understand the opulence of Krishna and his creation just in the material world itself. And this is something that is inconceivable. Imagine how long it's going to take. We say from here when we go to say India, it's about I think 8,000 miles roughly. Takes us what 13, 14 hours. Like if we have to go take a straight flight at about 700 miles an hour speed. It takes us. So how long will it take if I'm not saying there's a spaceship that can take us there. It's not possible, as was being discussed yesterday. But if, just for argument's sake, we just talk about the distance, you can calculate how much it's going to take from Earth to go to the moon or to go to any of the other planets. It's given here. They are like, millions of miles apart. So why ultimately we need to know all this? Somebody might say, okay, we are not here doing bhakti to go to Mars or Mercury or Venus or Saturn, then why bother? As I said, it is to understand the opulence, but most importantly, if it takes us that long, like I was just doing a calculation, if it is say 1,600,000 miles away, say any planet from the Earth, say is that much away. And if we do the calculation, it's going to take us, if we fly at 1,000 miles an hour, it will take us anything from 66 or 70 days to come to reach that planet. At like 60 days together, traveling all through. It is not possible. All other planets are only multiples. So 120 days, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Constantly you're traveling for 3 years at the speed which is much faster than an airplane today. Then we may reach. So if in the material world the relative planets are so far from each other, only a fool will aspire to think that, okay, I want to go there. But imagine how merciful the Lord is. If the material planets are so far, then you can imagine how far will be Golok Vrindavan. How far will be the Vaikuntha planets. So if somebody is trying on their own to reach there, it is not possible. It's impossible. But the Lord is so merciful that He is making it easy for us. So for us to from here to go to the moon is very difficult, practically impossible. But for us from here to go to the spiritual world, which is multiple times, 1,000,000 times more than going from here to the moon, that is possible. Why? Because Krishna does not tell us to use our energy and our airplane to come. If we are qualified, if we are following his instructions, then Krishna will send his own airplane. Is it not? Krishna sends his airplane. Krishna has his personal airplane. And you know who that airplane is?
Garuda.
Garuda. Absolutely. And Garuda, he flies at what speed? Faster than mind. So from the spiritual world, Krishna will send the vehicle for us. We just have to sit in that vehicle, and just like Dhruv Maharaj, will be taken. So aren't we so fortunate to ultimately go home without any hassle, without all of this stress, without doing so much planning, just by practicing what Krishna is telling us to do and practice our devotional service. So why is he doing all that? In chapter 15, this is the 9th verse, no? Na tad bhasayate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha yat gatva nivartante tad dhama paramam mama. That supreme abode does not have sun or moon, and those who reach it never return to this material world. So if we do not reach there and we take birth again, and if we are lucky, then again we have to read Bhagavatam and try to understand this again. Just like people say that if we don't realize Krishna and do something in this lifetime itself, we'll have to take birth. At least we'll get a human life. We'll have to take birth again go to school, again learn A, B, C, D, E, again open Bhagavatam, and again learn about the orbit of other planets. Too much hassle. Better, let's follow the instructions of Krishna. Let's intensify our bhakti. Let's associate with devotees, do our sadhana nicely, and ultimately wait for Krishna to send his vehicle, his airplane. So ultimately we can go back home to where we belong. Just like when we go to people who are settled here for a long time, we like to go to India, but we like to go to India only for some time. After some time, we want to come back home. So now we have taken a break from our original home, being here for some time, being involved with so many things. Now it's time for us to prepare our journey, or at least plan our journey back home to where we belong. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. All right, thank you very much. Any questions? Don't ask me technical questions, but anything you want to share or ask in general what we've covered, happy to discuss.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Well,
Thank you very much for explaining this verse so nicely, so many verses, and the gist of that. And ultimately, it boils down to the things that it is better to depend on the Lord than depending on our own effort, because when we understand how small we are, then we should live the thinking that we can do something. It is better to surrender to the Lord and let Him take the responsibility, and we feel assured that the things will be done properly, then instead of us trying and getting one problem after the other and never able to solve this. So thank you very much for bringing that essence after the end of this verse, which is very conclusive for those who have taken the devotional service in this life and wants to be successful ultimately. And the vital thing is just surrender unto the Lord and depend on the Lord and the spiritual master's advice, and that will make the life successful. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Guru. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Thank you very much for the very nice, especially the chart was very nice. Chart with all the
positions.
All the positions, we explained it very clearly. Thank you very much for sharing that.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dharma Pranam. It's very
Krishna.
technical and it's very difficult for me. And you presented very nice way from chapter 19 to this much. And so we can understand, visualize how the position of that alternate and things. It was so difficult for me, to understand how it's so distant and things. And you just that presentation, that picture is very nicely. I did the screenshot as well. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Sure, please make use of it.
Very easy way to convince. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you for sharing. Okay. Fine. I'm sorry. I've lost you.
It appears probably no other person to make comments. So thank you very much once again for your very nice class. And the class may be concluded. Thank you.
Bhaktanam Pavani Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki Jai.
Prabhu ki
Jai.
jai.
Jai Shri Krishna Prabhu ki
Jai
Jai.
Guru Maharaj ki Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.